Now, for more on this story, let's bring in our financial correspondent in Frankfurt. That's Chelsea Delaney. Good morning to you. And our man in Taipei, Tsung-Han Su. Good morning to you too. And I'd like to start with you, Tsung-Han, because why a dual listing and both of those basically taking place in China?
Well, actually, the Ant Financial is not the first Chinese company to list both in China and Hong Kong. We know companies like NetEase, JD.com, and Ant Financial's sister company, Alibaba, they all went to Hong Kong for listing. And there are several reasons. The first reason is because Hong Kong has a very special financial status. So for these Chinese companies, Hong Kong, like the United States, is considered offshore investment with stock market turnover comparable to other major exchanges. And secondly, Hong Kong as an international foreign exchange trading center can always meet the demand for foreign currency fundraising, especially in US dollars. And compared with the mainland, Hong Kong, a listing in Hong Kong can always attract more coverage and more report from multinational investment bank and research institutes. So it's easier to attract overseas investors. So probably in the future we'll see more companies to be listed both in Hong Kong and China.
That is exactly the point where I wanted to bring in Chelsea, because when you talk about Hong Kong and its traction, especially to foreign investors, Chelsea, Hong Kong is no longer the gateway to China. It is, technically speaking, China now. And will that affect its status in the financial world, do you think?
Well, after China introduced the national security law for Hong Kong over the summer, there was obviously a huge political blowback, and many people thought that Hong Kong would lose this special status as really the gateway to China. A lot of investment companies, a lot of hedge funds were threatening to pull out, but now that the dust has settled, it doesn't really look like much has changed. And if anything, Hong Kong's status has actually been strengthened, because normally a company like Ant would have done a listing in New York and a listing in China as well. Now, because of these tensions between the U.S. and China, these really big, attractive Chinese firms are listing in Hong Kong instead of in New York. So that's really bringing a lot of money into Hong Kong and making it an even more attractive financial place for investors.
Right. And of course, we're saying this is could very well be the biggest IPO this year, but we don't know yet when, or do we, Tsung-Han? Is there a date out yet?
Well, China's relevant authorities, they said that the consulting work of Ant Financial's IPO in Shanghai had been done, and the audit of Ant Financial's IPO in Hong Kong was also accepted. So we can probably expect the earliest date to be in October.
In October. Okay. Well, that's definitely when we will catch up with you again. Chelsea, I have one more question for you, because, I mean, all of this is happening, as we know now, in Shanghai and in Hong Kong. What's the relevance of this IPO from a European perspective then?
Well, Ant should really get a lot of cash from this IPO, and one theory is that they could perhaps use it to expand more in Europe, especially now that the U.S. market is increasingly unattractive for investment for Chinese companies. Ant already has been expanding a little bit in Europe. They've done some small acquisitions, really focused on Chinese travelers so far, Chinese tourists, but potentially they could be doing more expansion going forward after this IPO.
All right. Chelsea Delaney reporting for us from Frankfurt, and Tsung-Han Su in Taipei. Thank you